Very good evening, my dear friends. In this session, I will deal with the demonetization. As I thought it should be a separate chapter by itself, we should elaborately deal with it. So I reserved it. It is one of the functions of Reserve Bank of India, but I want to deal with in a more elaborate way. So we start off with section 27, which gives Reserve Bank of India the sole right to issue banknotes. Section 26, subsection 1 states that every banknote shall be legal tender in India in payment or on account for the amount mentioned on it, and it shall be guaranteed by the central government. So by default, a banknote issued by the RBI commands the value mentioned on it for any transaction in India, since it is a legal tender guaranteed by the central government. This default setting can be changed, which is the subject of demonetization. This can be done in three ways, the demonetization. Under the current Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, it can be done only if on the recommendation by the RBI, the central government issues a notification under section 26(2) declaring that any series of the RBI bank note of any denomination will cease to be legal tender from a particular point of time. This is number one. The second point is the current Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 also contains where an amendment could be brought to this legislation, which was done in 1956, to give legal certainty to the demonetization done in 1946. Third one is an ordinance issued by the President of India. It's called Presidential Ordinance. Or a separate parliamentary law also could be passed, and it could specifically override any other law, even the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934, and in fact in 1978 a demonetization was effected through this ordinance. And then of course subsequently a parliamentary law, because the ordinance has to become a law subsequently by the parliament. Then friends, what is this demonetization legal tender? Demonetization is the act of taking away the legal tender character of any specific denomination or series of banknotes. So friends, we have to understand then what is the meaning of legal tender. So we have to go to history, where earlier commodities have been widely used as medium of exchange, which was called barter system. But subsequently commodities to be accepted as medium of payment, the receiver must be able to assess the exact intrinsic value, which was difficult. So the payer could easily get away by giving low quality commodities in return. So the transactions were dispensed with, and then to avoid this problem, the legal tender, that is the currency, came into vogue. And the legal tender and guaranteeing their value by law, that is the government's. That's what central government has done it. Central government guarantees the value of legal tender in India. Such value was fixed by law would be independent of intrinsic value of the goods and commodities put for sale. Now with this background, we go through the demonetization took place in 1946. This was on January 12, 1946. The Governor General of India, prior to independence, just before independence maybe, promulgated the High Denomination Banknotes Demonetization Ordinance 1946, declaring that the high denomination banknotes of 500, 1,000 and 10,000 issued by the RBI would cease to be legal tender on expiry of January 1946. Then friends, 1978, another very landmark year with regard to demonetization, where the next round happened, that on January 16, 1978, the President of India promulgated in the independent India the High Denomination Banknotes Demonetization Ordinance 1978, which has become an act in 1978 on March 30, 1978. And by this law, the banknotes of denominations of 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 issued by RBI ceased to be legal tender from January 17, 1978. Now the latest demonetization came in 2016, November 8, 2016, a landmark year. in this demonetization episodes. So, where it was effected in India through three legal instruments. The Ministry of Finance issued a Gazette notification 1. By which banknotes of denominations of the existing series of the value of 500 rupees and 1000 rupees ceased to be legal tender with effect from November 9, 2016. An MOF, the Ministry of Finance issued one more Gazette notification 2, by which they specified its denomination of the new 2000 rupee note subsequently. Then the RBI issued a notification mentioning that the new series of banknotes called Mahatma Gandhi new series having different size and design will be issued. Then the RBI laid down a plan of action, including the process for exchanging the old banknotes with new one. Everybody knows about it. I need not have to elaborate. And the Ministry of Finance notification one mentions that the exchange of the old banknotes with the new notes will be allowed till December 30, 2016 and it was extended till 31st March 2017. Both the Ministry of Finance and RBI issued subsequent notifications to clarify and adjust for additional circumstances. But unlike the 1946 and 78, here the demonetization is not backed by a presidential ordinance nor an act of parliament, either way. So, I don't know, we may look forward for further demonetization or not. Well, it is left to the government and Reserve Bank thereon. And then, I'm only telling the law, at the moment we are learning the law. So, with regard to the law, what is the law here on demonetization? It is one of the functions of the Reserve Bank of India. This also you will have to mention in your answer on functions of Reserve Bank of India. But I have separated it and segregated and made out a separate lecture for the reason that separately we will understand the subject matter instead of taking it a more lengthy lecture rather than make it simplified. But earlier one and this both should be included in the functions of Reserve Bank of India. With this, we conclude our discussion on Reserve Bank and the last part of banking, the powers of Reserve Bank, which we will deal with. In our next episode, with that, we will conclude banking and a few lectures, 2 or 3 at the most, on the Negotiable Instruments Act, will be concluding this session. Thank you, my dear friends, and then all the best to you. Good day.